biblical cosmology, the implications for biblical translation. So here's something I actually found that I don't think you mentioned it in your actual presentation, but I was just snooping around and I was like, oh, this is good. Me and Matthew should talk about this. So let me read this real quick and then I might have you read the next slide since it's actually a slide you had on your presentation. So let me read this real quick.
Sure.
So this is page 35 from that article and it says, this historical evidence therefore shows that when Genesis 1 was written between 1446 and 1406 BCE, the common understanding of the cosmos was that the earth was a flat, circular disk floating on the waters of the abyss. The idea that we live on a spherical globe did not arise until the 6th century BCE when Greek philosophers first proposed this. This notion was then not confirmed as fact until the 3rd century BCE. There is therefore no way the author and original audience of Genesis could have understood that. I'm going to do my best to pronounce all the Hebrew correctly. Yikawau, oh my gosh, Hamayim Mitathat Hasamayim El Makom Echad in Genesis 1:9, which reads, and Elohim said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, let the dry land appear. And it came to be so. So that denotes the seas and oceans on the surface of a rocky planet. The only way they could have understood this passage would have been in terms of the biblical cosmology depicted in Figure 1. An examination of relevant scriptures in this section supports this analysis. So let's look at Figure 1. So here it is, and this is what you had as one of your slides on your presentation. You want to read this one, brother, since you had it on your presentation?
Yeah, this has become a favorite of mine. Biblical cosmology and Bible translation for those who want to translate Genesis 1:1 through 2:3 from the Hebrew into another language. The UBS, United Bible Society's Translator's Handbook on Genesis by Rayburn and Fry, 1998, 27, says translators are advised to study carefully the picture of the universe given in Figure 1 as it was understood by the ancient Hebrew authors. This may be done by reading the relevant articles in a Bible dictionary, along with such passages as Psalm 104, 2 through 9, Psalm 148, 4, Job 26, 11, Job 37, 18, Job 38, 4 through 11, Proverbs 8, 28 through 29, and Amos 9, verse 6. This is extremely powerful, very, very powerful statement right here. The author of this roughly 50-page treatise is Dr. John R. Roberts, and he's not only written this one, but he's written several studies for biblical journals on ancient Hebrew cosmology. And this is what I kept finding over and over in Bible dictionary after Bible dictionary and in scholar after scholar that studies A&E culture, is that they all agree this is what the Bible is actually saying. So then they come to the point to, all right, are we going to believe it for what it says at face value, or are we going to explain it away and say we've learned different and doctrine of accommodation or what have you? And the majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them go with like the doctrine of accommodation or something like that.
Do you want to touch on that for anybody that's not familiar with it? Because
Sure.
that was one of my questions, so you go ahead and knock that one out.
So yeah, accommodation in its simplest sense means that Yahweh relates to us in ways we can understand. And with that simple definition, I don't have a problem with Yahweh relating to us in ways we can understand. You know, for instance, in Isaiah 40, verse 22, he likens the heavens as being spread out like a tent to dwell in. That's, to me, that's accommodating our understanding. It's giving us an understanding of what the heavens are like, not in an exact form, but in an illustrative or metaphorical way. The problem is if we take accommodation too far, I know some people don't like to hear this, but I think that we make Yahweh out to be a liar. Yahweh is not going to accommodate us to the point that he's telling us something that's false. And so when he says, you know, in Psalm 148, verse 4, the psalmist says, you know, praise him, ye heavens, praise him, sun, moon, and stars, praise him, you waters above the heavens. He doesn't all of a sudden not mean what he says when he gets to verse 4, but he means what he says in verses 1 through 3 and verses 5 and following. But verse 4, he can't mean what he says because there's really not waters above the heavens. I know that's what it says. Daniel 3:60 in the Septuagint corroborates it, but it's got to be divine accommodation. I think that makes Yahweh out to be trying to get a point across to us through saying something false. And I considered that when I was doing my research and my study, and I could not be honest with myself or with the text and take that position. So I'm sorry. I know a lot of people do, but that's not, I always think about what if I had to stand before Yahweh and give an explanation for what I believe. And I'm not comfortable saying, I know that's what you said, Yahweh, but of course we know it can't be true because modern science claims this. So I went with science instead of what you said. Well, that's not trusting in Yahweh with all my heart. It's not.
No, it's not. Yeah, I have an issue with the people that teach that, and they teach that. Yeah, he's pretty much he's trying to help break it down for us, but in the end, he's actually lying to us. I have a huge issue with that as well. So
yeah, and they
I'm
won't
totally
say
with you on that.
Yeah, I'm not accusing people. They won't say, "Well, God lies to us." I understand that. I get that, but what I'm saying is that I think they have a misunderstanding, and the conclusion when all the dust settles has to be Yahweh's not telling the truth. If you take that position on divine accommodation, Yahweh really wasn't telling the truth, and it all goes back, brothers and sisters. Catch this. I was meditating on this today, Brother Matthew. It all goes back to Genesis 1. Genesis 1:1 through 2:4. 2:4 says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, not ever expanding. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Okay. Once again, the heavens and the earth. So he's talking about us. We are the creation of Yahweh. We're not one of millions of creations or galaxies. We're the creation. Genesis 1:1 through 2:4 is a literal text. It's talking about a literal 6 days. Yahweh literally works. Yahweh literally rests on the seventh day. Nobody even questioned that in fundamental conservative Christianity until all of a sudden we point out Genesis 1:6 through 8 teaches that there's a solid structure above our heads, in Hebrew known as the rakia, or the firmament. All of a sudden it can't be literal anymore. We have to take it metaphorical or accommodation. And see, if we start with Genesis 1:1 through 2:4, knowing that that's a literal text, then every other text in the Bible, whether it be Job 38 or Psalm 104, Amos 9, or Proverbs 28, I think, no matter which, or Proverbs 18, excuse me, no matter which text that we go to, those texts are looking back on the Bereshit or the Genesis text.
Yep, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So those texts aren't teaching anything different than what the literal Genesis 1:1 through 2:4 creation account teaches. So it's enclosed cosmology all the way. And I think it really, I'm not accusing, listen, I've got a lot of good friends, brothers and sisters in the Messiah that don't adhere to this view. And I'm not accusing you of calling Yahweh a liar purposefully or like you're diabolical or anything like that. What I'm asking you to do, I'm asking you to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what does this particular view make Yahweh out to be in the end matter? And I think it makes him out to be spreading falsehoods throughout the scriptures. I mean, there's one doctor, Dr. John Walton, who he has a series of books, The Lost World of Genesis, The Lost World of the Flood, The Lost World, such and such. And he has some good teachings, but he agrees with enclosed cosmological view in the scriptures, but he thinks divine accommodation, answers for that. And he now is saying that maybe demons aren't real because God's just accommodating man's faulty understanding of demons too. You see where this leads? You see where this leads? And this is a scholar. It's very, very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. But you can pick up his books. He's got a commentary, I think, in maybe the NIV application commentary or something, and he talks about this. But the accommodation, it's like a big eraser. Accommodation just takes care of everything. It's crazy.